The hospital room of a terminally ill cancer patient had to do with the fact that he was possibly consuming marijuana to deal with the pain his body is experiencing due to his terminal illness. On December 16th, Hays, Kansas police raided the hospital room of 69-year-old Greg Bretz, who is suffering from terminal cancer after a hospital worker at Hays Medical Center caught him vaping marijuana. Now, he doesn't deny that he was using marijuana, and I don't blame him for using marijuana to relieve the pain that he's feeling, because whether some people want to believe it or not, marijuana does have some medicinal value. And when it comes to pain relief, I've now heard from so many individuals who have suffered from cancer or other illnesses that cause pain, forgoing, the traditional prescription painkillers and using marijuana instead. And in this case, we're again dealing with an elderly man who has weeks to live, dealing with a raid in his hospital room because a hospital worker decided to snitch on him. Now, this is in Kansas, which is one of 3 states in the US that still criminalizes pot in all cases. They haven't legalized it for medicinal use, they haven't legalized it for recreational use. It is just fully banned in the state of Kansas. Now, the police seized his vaping device, and he also apparently had some edible paste containing THC. They cited him for drug possession, and get a load of this, set a court date for January 2nd. He's terminally ill and he needs help getting around. He can't even move around on his own. And they're forcing him to go to court over his personal use of marijuana to relieve his pain. And what's so crazy about this is that his own doctor apparently told him to do whatever he needs to do to feel better, to relieve himself of that pain. Brett said a doctor told him to do whatever he wants if it makes him feel better, because there's basically nothing medical science can do for him anymore other than hospice care. And is it a valid concern when it's cited that using a vaping device in a hospital room is dangerous? Well, they told him that the vaping device was a fire hazard because the room is equipped with oxygen. Now, that could be a valid concern. Vape devices have a small electronic element that heats liquid to steam for inhalation, but there have been some cases where the vape has malfunctioned and patients got burned using them while taking oxygen through a nasal tube. But in this case, the patient is not taking oxygen through a nasal tube. And what's also interesting is that the authorities felt they were more interested in confiscating his paste, which obviously is not a fire hazard. Look, the real problem here is that states like Kansas, Nebraska, and Idaho have still completely banned marijuana and still criminalize individuals who are caught with possession of marijuana. But on a federal level, I would say we have a bigger problem, because the Biden administration could reschedule or completely remove marijuana from the list of Schedule I drugs, which, by the way, states that marijuana has no medicinal use and is one of the most dangerous drugs in the country, which is hilarious considering we are currently dealing with a meth and fentanyl epidemic throughout the country. We're dealing with increased fentanyl deaths and overdoses, but we still have marijuana listed as a Schedule I drug. If we actually had some action from the federal government in decriminalizing marijuana, in removing marijuana from the list of Schedule I drugs, I think that we would be in a better place overall, because federal law supersedes state law. So possibly this individual who is terminally ill wouldn't have to deal with an insane raid in his hospital room because he's using a vape or marijuana paste in order to relieve his pain. And what a waste of resources. He's got to go to court. Like, the state has to pay for that. He's got to go to court on January 2nd to defend himself. And I don't even know if he's going to be able to live to that date. They should just totally drop this. But this is what we're dealing with in some states. It is absolutely disgusting. Medicinal marijuana or medicinal cannabis, again, is illegal in Kansas, despite 68%, a whopping 68% of state residents supporting state-sanctioned medical marijuana access. And that's according to NORML, the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws. My heart goes out to him. I hope that they just drop this entirely. He shouldn't have to worry about a court date in his final weeks here on this earth. And he should be able to relieve his pain, especially when we're dealing with a plant that's obviously much more safe than the opioids that have just torn this country apart with overdoses, with deaths. It just makes no sense. Feel terrible for him.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.